we met in the Cuban American Club when there was like maybe 10 families that were Cuban. And here in Jacksonville, we're both Cuban, and God put us together here, not in Cuba. And that would be rare for you to meet another Cuban person here in high school. So that was really odd. And my mother had met him before me at the Cuban club at some function. I never used to go much, but I was invited to a senior dance there for a Cuban American children's family, and I met him there. There's a Cuban American club. It was off of Phillips Highway, I believe. And they used to have it used to be a building, and it had a softball field, and it had a pool, and Cubans would go there on the weekends. They would play dominoes, they would have dances, they would have meals, they would just spend the weekend there. They would go there to the club, my dad would go there to play poker with a lot of Cuban doctors that my dad was friends with. A lot of Cuban doctors came, and they passed, and they did well, and they were practicing medicine here. They had all kinds of people, and my dad was one of the founders, and his name is Roberto, Roberto Mures, Mures. And he was very much liked. He was like a mayor, they used to call him, because anybody that would come into the city that just got here from Cuba or another Hispanic, mainly Cubans, he would find them jobs, he would take them places, he would teach them how to drive, he would take them to the Lutheran social services. He was like so missed when he passed away. He was a people person. I mean, I'm telling you. But yeah, the Cuban American Club is on Phillips Highway. Then they switched it to off of Sunbeam Road. They had to move. They had to sell it for some reason. The committee, and those men have died off, and unfortunately their children, they didn't keep it. Like I can say I'm guilty that even though my dad was a founder, but in the busyness of my life, it wasn't a Christian thing. So I said, I have to get my energy in things of God. And then they made it a Hispanic Latin club. That didn't work either. Then finally they sold it to the Catholic Charities, the building and the place, but it died off.
Working at UNF.
So I actually started working at UNF in 1988. And at the time, the University of North Florida did not have a nutrition program. And then I think around 1987, they started the College of Health. And they had one person who used to teach nutrition classes to the nursing students because it's required. And I worked for about 2 years as an advisor. And then in the either 90 or early 90s, it got accredited. And that's when I moved into the faculty position. When I mentioned that it was only 1.7% Hispanic, my husband and I are fairly acculturated, I think I would say, but we still like Spanish culture and Spanish food, and we really love it. We were upset that we weren't getting an ability to practice Spanish with anybody, and that we couldn't hear Latin music anywhere. And then we found out that there was a Latin band in town. And so we went to listen, and my husband plays instruments. So he approached them afterwards, and they got him in the band. So it was great because I would say for a good 20 years, at least, he played with the band. And so we created a set of friends.
I worked with the company for 2 years. When I moved here, I was looking for radio stations, for media companies. And the only station that it was, a Spanish station, I think it was just on the weekend for a few hours. Victor Cora have that station. It was, I think the name, it was Latin Beat or something. And there was just a one local newspaper. And that person, she offered me like a type of partnership, and I started working with the newspaper. And a year after we started working, we opened the first 24 hours radio station here in Jacksonville. That was in 2003. We opened the station Latino Hits, 1160. Back in 2003, I remember that we pulled the census number. It was 55,000 Hispanic in Jacksonville. Any place that you went, right, and you hear somebody that actually speaks Spanish, you're like, what surprise! Like, wow, is somebody that actually speaks Spanish here? That's awesome. Because we took us 20 years now, just to be in the number that we always want to be, which is 10% of the population. And then in 2005, another investor, they bought that station, the 11cc, and he said, okay, you can stay with the company. You're gonna be now my general manager. And we bought another 2 stations. That was in 2000, I think 2006, and 2000, and actually have it here in 2010. 2010, we opened the first FM station in Jacksonville. That was Caliente 105.3. And that was another group of radio. They hired me to open that station. In 2013, the Northern Group, there was a group that actually bought the station in 2005. They hired me back, and they opened another FM. And then they bought another FM in 2014. I'm gonna give you the whole radio history of Jacksonville. And in 2017, we opened iHeartMedia. This opened the first FM Hispanic station. For the group. That means that was in 2017. We opened Rumba 106.9. Since then, I kept working with iHeartMedia, and now we have another FM. We have the first news talk stations in Jacksonville. I think so far I've been involved in 10 launchings of
coming to live here. I definitely noticed that there was no real ethnic representation for Hispanics. Like, I didn't feel like there was like any Hispanic kind of community. Like the Hispanics were maybe spread out. There was some little stores here and there. You never heard anybody speaking Spanish anywhere. If you hear people speaking Spanish, like you'd almost want to go up to them and ask them, who they were. Or it didn't really dawn on me to get involved in the community until I got here, and I realized there was such an absence of representation, and we still don't have any elected officials in Jacksonville that are Hispanic, and we don't have any Hispanics as representatives in Tallahassee. We don't have any city council people. We don't have any school board people. There are some people who are, that work in City Hall. At least there used to be. I don't know about now with this mayor. There's definitely an absence of that. So when I came here and I saw that there was like no ethnic diversity and there was no Hispanic representation, that's what really made me learn more. And a friend of mine told me about the local Democratic Party, and so I started learning about the state Hispanic caucus, and how they're a separate entity from the local city DECs. So I'm currently still the president of the Democratic Hispanic Caucus. It's been like 6 or 7 years now. When Trump got elected, I was the chair of the Mayor's Hispanic Board, and I was elected by my peers. I wasn't appointed by the mayor. It was at that time that I realized that we really needed to do something that kind of helped strengthen the image of Hispanics in Jacksonville, because I felt like there was this horrible cloud, that was coming through. And so we decided to do the Hispanic Film Festival. But yeah, It was a good little event, and we had a nice turnout, but we couldn't continue doing
I
it.
hosted 240
following
delegates
the
from
division.
around the entire world. And this is mayors and consuls and student groups and business groups. And it didn't really matter to me. They were all the same. They were all just people. Unfortunately, I kind of messed that up and never took any pictures with any of these people. So I couldn't even begin to tell you who they were. We actually had the consul from Mexico come to visit the mayor one time. And it was really an interesting conversation because I don't think our mayor, while he knew that I spoke Spanish, I don't think he actually put two and two together. So when the consul was here, obviously he's got his interpreter with him, but we're sitting in the conference room and I've got the mayor on one side and the consul on the other side. I'm sitting kind of in between the two of them, the translator and everybody else. And somehow I began talking to our consul. He speaks to me in Spanish. I translate to the mayor in English. The mayor speaks to me in English. I translate and speak to him in Spanish. And all of a sudden, by the third time that happened, Mayor Brown looks at me and he says, "You speak Spanish?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." So